Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jake Usna. I am the content producer here at The Walker and part of the team that puts together Insights Design Lecture Series every year. And like Emily from AIJ said, we want to thank you all for coming. And also, the theme of this year's Insights is collaboration. So in that kind of vein, we think of you as the audience as much as a collaborator as those of us on stage and behind the scenes. So thank you so much for coming. We also want to thank Shapko, who was kind enough to donate the printing of the posters that I see many of you have in your hands. But if not, feel free to grab one on the way out. And more importantly, I just want to start like we do all of our programs at The Walker by acknowledging that the Walker Arts Center is located on the contemporary, traditional, and ancestral homelands of the Dakota people. This site, which was once an expanse marshland and meadow, holds meeting for Dakota, Ojibwe, and indigenous people from other Native nations who still live in our community today. This may be the end of our in-person lectures as part of Insights this year, but this is now the second year where we've expanded our programming to have more free opportunities for engagement with designers and design thinkers. On April 13th, a Saturday afternoon, we're doing a free online collaborative workshop on publishing with temporary services out of Chicago. And then the following Saturday on the 20th of April, which I also just realized is 420, is the Alchemy of Publishing workshop with Co-Conspirator Press, which is based out of Los Angeles and focuses on publishing and design through the praxis of feminism, inclusivity, and intersectionality. We also just launched a series of free articles as part of the Walker Reader found on our website. This one is guest edited and put together by David Gisson, who is a designer and author of The Architecture of Disability, Building Cities and Landscapes Beyond Access. The very first one I mentioned was just published this morning. It's on the elevator, which sounds dry, but is actually pretty fascinating. And for those of you who know folks who maybe couldn't make it to these, all of the in-person lectures will be available for free as videos on the Walker website and YouTube channel starting the beginning of next month. Also, the wonderful crew from Twin Cities Zine Fest will be back here on Saturday as part of Free for Saturdays, where they'll be leading free drop-in zine-making workshops. And additionally, if you haven't checked out Idea House 3, which is the new design concept store found in what was formerly the big shop by the Hennepin entrance, a selection of some of the amazing zines from this crew will also be available for purchase there. And they will continue on, but they'll be there by Saturday. I also kind of just want to thank, in ethos of collaboration, Ryan and Justin, way up in the top, our wonderful technicians who have kept this entire series running smoothly. Al and Josette, who have been giving ASL interpretation for all of our workshops, as well as Angela and the entire team of Visitor Experience, who are the folks who gave you tickets, took your tickets, and ushered you around. They're an amazing crew. And then, very quickly, we have a lot of folks to thank because it takes a village. Mary Hedstrom, Ashley, Brian Huddleston, who is the one who designed that wonderful poster and all the motion graphics out of the design studio here at The Walker, and the entire design studio crew, as well as facilities, security teams, and all the other teams that make programs like this possible. So thank you all. And then to get to the real reason we're all here tonight, Twin Cities Zine Fest. So some of you might know this, but Design Insights series actually started in 1986, and it's been a collaboration with AIGA for many years, and it was always sort of focused to bring some of the leading voices and practitioners of design from throughout the globe to the Walker. And many of those individuals and groups, kind of their approaches to design formed around going through formal education, whether that was universities, private art schools, places like that. But in all honesty, that's not an option available for everybody, or is the right option. But too often, in some ways, those who practice what we call graphic design, but who haven't gone through those systems, don't always get the recognition they deserve, because their grassroots, their own work, really, I think, is what creates a lot of the visual culture we are surrounded by in ways. So in that spirit, our local Twin Cities Zine Fest is an annual celebration of zines and self-publishing from the Twin Cities and beyond. They aim to sustainably support self-publishing in the DIY ethic in our communities with an intersectional focus on politically and socially engaged zines, community partnership, and amplifying the voices of those who've been historically unheard. It marks their 20th year anniversary this year, which we are very excited to be able to celebrate with them. And for those of you who, we kind of do this every time with Insights, but there'll be a reception afterwards, which we join you to meet these great designers, artists, and creatives, have a drink, and they've also created an original zine pinata that is filled with all kinds of surprises. You might have seen it as you came in, but that we'll be smashing the hell out of during the reception. So on the ethos that design and design practices are really for anyone, anywhere, no matter where they come from, I'd like to ask you to help me invite Twin Cities Zine Fest to our stage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Not sure how I wanted to do that. Okay, so since 2004, Zine Fest has welcomed creatives, rebels, musicians, and frustrated intellectuals to connect, create, and share ideas. Year two's theme, let's see here. So this, So this was the first year's poster, and I'll just be going through the years that we've, gone through, and also the posters that we have here. So year two's theme was freedom from the press. In the first years, there were usually a reception and a party with live music afterwards. That was a big thing. Also, Zine Fest back then, in the early days, was on a Saturday and a Sunday, and which also included workshops. And the fourth year, so I'll just go back to just so you can see that one a little bit more. But the fourth year, there was a Zine Librarian Caucus that happened. And then this was also the year that I personally, this was my first introduction to zines in general. Well, a Zine Fest. I had seen zines before, but not a Zine Fest, not a bunch of people in a room with zines. And so it was overwhelming and beautiful. And that was my first year in attendance. And then this was my first year as an exhibitor. But so 2009, the documentary If It Ain't Cheap, It Ain't Punk by Joe Beal was shown. And most of the Zine Fest up to this point have had after parties with live music. This next year, see here, I'm sorry, my slides are a bit different. So this year was smaller and was held at Bryant Park. And then these next few years, right after they were at Stephen Square Center for the Arts, they were at Powderhorn Park. And let's see here, these next 3 years, Minnesota Center Book Arts talked about artists and books, and there was a display from Minneapolis Community and Technical College, the Zine Library Collection. And Minneapolis, by the way, has the college there has the most expansive collection of zines in the state. You don't have to be a student or anything to go there and browse the zines in the filing cabinets. Go there and get inspired to make a zine. All three of these years at the Powderhorn were Joshua Plogue was also there. He was a traveling vegan chef and in attendance with zines and food. And at Twin Cities Zine Fest, at least from 2016 to current, we have a place on our application where you can check, at least 75% of your table needs to be zines, and whatever else, if you want to make bottle caps, keychains, a lot of people are big fans of buttons and stuff. It's all good. So this is 2016, and there were roughly 80 or 78 exhibitors on that day, and it was attended by 490 people, roughly. There was a bingo fundraiser held at the Seward Cafe, and the event itself was held at Walker Church. And this way, we had money to continue for the following year, and we commissioned an artist from Huron to do the posters, usually. And so then we also put money in for postcards. So this poster was made into postcards and could send them all over. There were 90 exhibitors and 650 people attended this year. And this one was held at Minnesota Center for Book Arts. And then we came into a partnership with Hennepin County Library, and we started exhibiting there. One of several workshops was Community as a Form of Resistance. And our kickoff reading was held at Minnesota Center for Book Arts, from this point on. And we were also hosted at the Hennepin County Library in the atrium for the actual fest. And pre-fest reading, also at Minnesota Center for Book Arts. And then the pandemic hit, and we went on for a week-long virtual event featuring video releases, workshops, and a live reading. By the way, this is still available on our YouTube channel, which we created for this, our events. And they go through the Hennepin County Library as well. So we are still partnering with them. That, has been working. 2021, we also had an event online with our partners, at the library. And 2022, we held workshops, also a recorded reading. We didn't do an actual Zine Fest because they're kind of weird online sometimes, so you can't really see everybody. But also, you can cruise people's tables. And so it's been done by so many Zine Fests very differently, and we just didn't do it that way. But these past 8 or 9 months, we have regrouped again, and we have started zine scene readings, and we have an invited guest, and they present a workshop after the reading. We have about 5 to 10 other readers. And this, let's see here, this next one, is our featured guest coming up is Baki, who's currently here tonight. And see here, 5 to 10 other volunteers will be required to, read also their zines, which is also, you can find that link to register to read your zines for free at the Hennepin County Library with us on Instagram. Just 5 minutes, just read and hang out and then go to a workshop. And that's May 7th. And I guess, thank you to all our volunteers, past, present, and future. Thank you very much. Okay.
I'll be introducing the theme for the night and our speakers. Whenever I tell people that I make zines, oftentimes they'll say something like, "Zine people really like zines, huh?" Zinesters are just absolutely passionate about zines. And I thought I would talk a little bit about all of the reasons that we love them. We're here tonight to talk about zines and community building. And the zine is a unique medium that kind of lends itself to community building for some of these reasons. We love zines because they're an art form with a really low barrier to entry. They're also a non-art information practice. Sometimes zines are made by people who are not artists for non-art purposes. We love zines because you don't need power to make a zine. In fact, zines actually create power. I'm quoting Baki on that. We love zines because zines are often political and radical. At the same time, they can be an intimate way to share personal narratives and stories. We love zines because they don't have to look a certain way. We love zines because they rely on DIY distribution methods that are fucking effective. You can have really broad distribution of a zine that you make yourself, or you can have pretty limited controlled distribution. You can tailor them to your audience. We love zines because they're niche, because they are handmade. We love zines because they change history. Self-publishing alters, I think, the narratives for communities who are looking to control their own stories. We love zines because they are a sustainable creative practice. They help you to value your own labor on your own terms. We love zines because they are haptic and tactile in a world of digital content. We love zines because you can make them without leaving a digital footprint. We love zines because they are cheap, because they're lo-fi, and because they're photocopied. We love zines because you can fill a piñata with them. I'm going to introduce you to our speakers, some people who really, really, really love zines. First, we have the absolute delight of hearing from Baki, a Black Native multidisciplinary artist and teaching artist. Baki got their start in zines more than 10 years ago through a local library program. The day they learned how to fold a one-pager was the same day they made a lifelong commitment to making, curating, and teaching the power of zines. Cynthia Nicole started with writing per zines after a disabling brain injury. Writing zines, trading through the mail, and attending Zine Fest have been a part of their healing. They've been a volunteer with Twin Cities Zine Fest since 2016. Ejoy Mayer makes autobio comics, really great autobio comics. She is the founder and organizer of Insert Name Zine Fest, coming up this August. Late Night Copies Press co-hosts the Midwest Queer and Trans Zine Fest annually in October. Late Night Copies is a queer and trans-owned micro press publishing zines about queer archives, arts organizing, and LGBTQ history. Finally, YOLO Zines as Elle Kling, they, them, a queer trans person of color living on occupied Dakota and Anishinaabe land, aka Minneapolis. They specialize in working with diverse artists and writers to create collaborative zines on a wide range of topics, from cats to death to food to biking to gender and sexuality and more. Please give it up for our speakers of the night. Thank you so much for being here.
Peace, everybody. I be Baki, and I do a tradition of always honoring my parents. So I be the child of Lewis Porter II and Ian McMillan Porter. So I just want to share that. And they in the audience tonight. Okay. So it says local Black zine history, but when I was offered the opportunity to present with y'all, I was like, okay, I'm going to treat this like I'm at a bus stop with 250 people. And I think representation is important. I'm Black, Native, and autistic. And I was like, y'all are about to learn my special interest. So instead of local Black zine histories, I'm going to just take you through a little bit about me and a lot of Black zines. And we just going to have a good time. My whole goal with this presentation is that, like, even if just 5 people go home and Google something so that they can time travel throughout history, I will have done my job, okay? Who am I? Like, I think I also got invited to do this because I host a monthly free zine workshop where food is provided, art materials are provided. I'm just trying to fill in the gaps of our lack of state funding and make zines accessible. Why am I trying to make zines accessible? Well, I also, as like a person who is getting in touch with their hoodoo identity, believe that the political is spiritual and the spiritual is political. And it's important for queer and trans representation to also be, you know, we could get kind of holier than thou too, maybe just a little bit. But how do we get holier than thou in a way that we can all be holier than thou? And so this is just the definition of an altar. And I try to live my life in a ritualistic way, and everything is altar making, including zines. Okay, so now I'm just gonna start throwing things at y'all, okay? Ida B. Wells was a zinester. When she wrote about the lynchings that were taking place all across this nation and self-published and self-produced, she was a zinester, okay? This is a cute timeline. Somebody pretend to take out their phone and just take a picture so I feel better about myself. Because I want y'all to understand that, like, throughout history, when you hear about, like, the crisis or fire, Fire was a Harlem Renaissance publication where in it, the first ever fiction work that featured a Black bisexual character took place, and that's the power of zines. We don't have representation today of cute bisexual Black people, but we had it in 1926 thanks to zines, and I just think that's important to know. And then continuing on, the Black Panther Party were also zinesters. We gotta expand our mind on what we think are zines. And also the bridge called my back. A lot of the work written in there coined terms that later became intersectionality started here in 1980. Everybody's acting like diversity and equity is something new. No, Black and brown people have been producing that forever. Okay, now let's take a closer look. I am a McAllister student, been on and off for a while because that's how it goes. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to what kept me going when institutional racism tried to take me out. Sounds of Blackness is not just a choir or collective. They were a student group that had a poetry chapbook in 1971 with poems and artwork that detailed the difficulties of being Black and trying to, get validation from the ivory towers. And I need y'all to know that. Look up Sounds of Blackness zines, hit me up, ask for my email. I want to as much as I can prove that representation and some of the same challenges we face today have been reasoned with, wrestled with, and contended and confronted through art, the better. Imani was also was the first Black student newspaper at McAllister, and they covered a lot of different topics, but I think it's cool that, how do I say this? News has always been political. We have very rarely seen accurate representation in terms of Blackness, indigeneity, disability. All those intersections were happening in 1972. So for all my Black folks, all my disabled folks, all my queer and trans folk, when they say that this our identities and having the audacity to want liberation is something new, I need you to point to zines and say, ain't nothing new under God's sun, okay? Lastly, JAMA was another collection of short stories, arts, and essays, and the poem highlighted here. Just also look at this dope art. This was made by Black people that live and breathe on the same air that you are currently, and was on this land that you are on. Radical things have always been happening. I'm just trying to inspire. Inspire!
Back.
That's what this is about. The reason I put this slide up too is that I think it's important to note that ideas of intersectionality, again, ain't nothing new under the sun. Black folks been doing this, and this is a poem by a student who is also deaf. And I just think that's cool. Is this cool? Okay, cool. Now I want to talk about the importance of libraries and third spaces. I got my start thanks to the free library program that connected just students in the neighborhood to art stuff. I remember being in high school and walking, and my friend was like, we have nothing to do. We're going to go to the library and do something. And I was like, I'm a cool kid. I'd rather be doing things that my parents wouldn't like to hear about. And my friend was like, no, let's just go to the library. And Mama, you already know. And we went to the library, and there was this zine workshop, and there was this cool queer with face tattoos leading the workshop. You see a theme? And I was like, I saw them and just realized who I needed to be in life. So shout out to Hennepin County Library, as well as Trans Fabulous. That has an interesting history. But I'm telling y'all, programming saves lives. Third spaces save lives. And then this slide is just say, the more things change, the more they stay. We got to do that again. That was bad. The more things change, the more they stay. Okay, thank you. Oh, that was good. Okay. On the left, right? Whatever. When it says 2015, this was my first poster I made. Let me back up. This was the first poster I made to do a zine workshop specifically for trans youth, because I was a trans youth, and I held it at the Central Library. I would have never had a venue space before or like that, and hosting a zine workshop by myself or in collaboration with folks for the first time I wouldn't even have that idea without the library. I wouldn't even understand what's the power of self-publication without a library. And look, my style ain't changed that much. I think, we grow a little bit. Definitely grew. But I made both of these. Okay, Now, with that, I want to take time to speak about, I would be doing my people and myself a disservice if I didn't mention Library Patrons Union, who helps out Hennepin County Library by organizing the community to be for the people, by the people, even when conflict arises. If there's another thing I could imprint in all y'all brains, conflict is an opportunity for much needed change. Let's not shy away from it. So, of course, I had to take this time. If I'm going to speak on a podium, we're going to make it radical, right? And speak to the disproportionate violence that Black teenagers face in Hennepin County Library today. An instance happened in late February where excessive force was used on a Black teen. Shout out to the library's patron union, community-led organization union for Hennepin County Library on reporting about it. And this just shows how like policies play out. Every policy you see on paper is just like us, and it has a street life. And oftentimes, what translates is racism, and it's not fair. So like y'all could. This is on their Instagram. I took these right off the screen. I screenshotted these and just posted this because I would not be here today if I went to the library and this Black skin was seen as a threat, like it is now and has been in the past. Like, imagine if I didn't go to that zine workshop because excessive force was used on me just because of X, Y, and Z things, because of the fact of my skin. Y'all wouldn't have gotten this dope presentation. So how are we going to protect the next generation of folks and ourselves? Because what happens if I go to the Hennepin County Library tomorrow? I'll be there actually next month doing a workshop. That's going to be great. But folks shouldn't have to work in community and have clout in order to feel safe in spaces. So I just wanted to say, like, it's all in our hands to make sure the third spaces that we have that are about social connection and the sharing of knowledge stay that way, stay positive, so that we may all time travel. Okay, now like I need to hurry it up. This slide is just another thing that I'm just trying to imprint on y'all. Never come to community with an empty ask. Feed folks, feed your intention. With that, I want to share a recipe that I do at my monthly zine workshops. This is called Cowboy Stew. I was into Cowboy Stew before Beyonce's album, so not saying I want credit, but give me some credit, y'all. This, you can get a lot of these. I'm sorry it's so smushed together. I realize that's not great. It was aesthetically, it looked cool for other things. But anyway, take a picture. This you can get oftentimes at these ingredients or at food shelves, but also even with inflation, this is $100 and can comfortably feed 15 people. I want to get y'all to understand that when you do community events, some people come having no meals for that day. How are we going to have class solidarity and be cute? We're going to provide food. So I just wanted to offer up one that I do. And then being in the traditions, I by no means am the only representation of Black zinesters. We have a couple here tonight. But zines can be powerful all the time. I've made zines about bone broth. I've made zines about Carl Jung's ideas about gender because I thought that would be funny to answer to a white man. And also about how we need more symbols for abolition. And I just make cute graphics about Assata Shakur. Come on, y'all. And that's kind of my presentation, monthly zine workshops. Let's fill in the gaps from the state defunding. Let's empower Black and brown knowledge systems. Let's be like Ida B. Wells. Let's be like Zora Neale Hurston. Let's be like Audre Lorde. That's my time. Thank y'all. Yeah, I have to do it.
Oh, follow me on Instagram if y'all want to be a part of the monthly zine workshop. I'll look your board. Just find me. Just find me. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Hello, Minneapolis. I'm going to be talking about zines. And my name is E. Joy Mayer. You can call me Emily, but my pen name is E. Joy Mayer. And I founded the Insert Name Zine Fest in 2019, and I draw lots of autobio. But how did I get started? In 2018, I was working at a hearing aid plant. And then I got laid off, and it was like the happiest day of my life. So they're like, you're laid off. And I'm like, oh no. And inside I'm like, fuck yes. So there was lots of like sitting on the couch, looking at my phone. And then I was like, I'm broke and I'm bored. So I started keeping a journal. It was supposed to be just like, this is how much money I have, and but I can't stop from drawing. So it turned into a zine. This is my first zine. I did it in 2018. And it's called Unemployment Diary, blah, blah, blah. And it was just basically pages of that. And I went to the Madison Print and Resist Zine Fest that year. And it was my first ever Zine Fest. And I was like, how's this going to be? And it turned out it was awesome. I sold out of all the 15 zines that I had brought that I was selling for $2. And I was like, I'm rich, So, yeah, this is me. And I'm like, I like Zine Fests. So then I made another Zine Fest called Baby's First Zine Fest, and it was all about the experience I had at the other one. So, like, here's a sample panel. It's like, the Zine Fest was a series of blurs. Maybe I shouldn't have started my zine with a penis in sunglasses. So, yeah, I go to more Zine Fests, and it's great, and I love zines, and I'm like, So, but then sometimes you don't get in, and it's like, nope, and then you're just, like, back on your couch. And I was sad. But then I can be a Zine Fest. And I was. This is the first year we did the Insert Name Zine Fest in the side room that they had cribbage at the Eagles Club in South Minneapolis. We had 8 tablers. I think I rented the room for $100 because I was a waitress at the Eagles Club at the time. The name Insert Name Zine Fest is because I didn't know of a name, so I was like, oh, we'll have a contest. And my friend Carol, who did pull tabs, she won. So I gave her a crown and a scepter, as you do. We just kind of kept the name because, I don't know, like, why not? But yeah, so that's how the Zine Fest got started. Why do I like zines? They're cheap, they're DIY, and they're an accessible way to get involved in an artistic community. Like, I have a community college degree, but I don't have a BFA. I don't have, like, a lot of art instruction, but I can make a zine. Like, I have Sharpies, and I have a photocopier, and, like, I can go to the library where you can print free copies up to a limited amount. And, yeah, these low barriers mean more diversity, which means more and better ideas because there's more ideas and then they feed off of each other. And it's like you get one person saying this thing and then, you're able to, more minds equals better. And we also share. Sharing is a really important part of the zine community. We share knowledge. Like I was asking India of Late Night Copies, how do I scan without a scanner? And they were like, Tiny Scan, and it's free. It's like a thing on your phone. And then like resources. Again, Late Night Copies, they've got printers and like, you can go over there sometimes to use them. I'm sure they'll elaborate on that. And, opportunities like Lo of YOLO Zines was a person who brought me in on here. And like, now here I am, I'm like, laid off from a hearing aid factory and I'm talking at the Walker. Like, it's very cool. Like, so yeah, these are some of the things I've done. I did a workshop at the library. I got to talk at a medical conference and like, I'm not a doctor, but like, this is a medical conference that they do called Graphic Medicine. And it's the intersection of comics and medicine. So like people who make comics about health and like advocating and cool stuff. And also I have started doing cartoonist and zine retreats, which is like, I didn't have a picture, but that's what it looked like. 10 cartoonists, and we all went to House on the Rock, and then we stayed at the Dawn Q Inn, which is like, they're like a normal hotel, but they also have fantasy suites, but they were expensive, but we got to look in some of the rooms, like on the slide. So, so I've been doing lots of stuff, and community is how it is possible that I'm doing all this stuff. So if you are sitting on your couch, remember, I can be a Zine Fest. And actually, I am looking to pass over the Insert Name Zine Fest to the next generation. So see me if you are interested in becoming an organizer. I will have flyers afterwards. And the Insert Name Zine Fest is Sunday, August 18th, 2024, from 12 to 5 p.m. See me for a flyer at reception. Thank you very much.
All right. Hello, everyone. We're Late Night Copies Press. I'm Aiden Bettine, one half of the press.
I'm India Johnson, the other half.
We run a press here in Minneapolis, as you heard, and our goal is really to cultivate queer and trans space for creating zines and building community, both locally and within the region. We do this in a number of ways. One is our publishing scope and the type of material that we put out about queer archives, about queer history. We also provide, as you heard from eJoy, share our space. We have a photocopier in our apartment and a bunch of working height tables and other fun zine tools and staplers and bone folders and stuff that people can come use and share at least a few times a month. And last year, we started organizing the Midwest Queer and Trans Zine Fest. So the first annual one was last October, and we're very excited to host another one this October at the Open Book Building downtown.
Late Night Copies is inspired by the history of queer independent print culture, especially here in the region of the Midwest. And one really good example of this is the Iowa City Women's Press, which was a lesbian feminist press that was active in Iowa City in the 1970s and 80s. The Iowa City Women's Press published a series of DIY manuals, such as the car and home repair manuals that you see here. At the time, it was the only woman-owned and operated offset print shop in the United States.
We also draw inspiration from queer archives and erotic material in particular. We wanted to shout out some great community-run magazines from the 70s through the 90s. We take direct inspiration and think that sexuality and sex is such a critical part of queer life and that we should not shy away from continuing that publishing tradition in an analog format.
Another really important aspect of queer independent print culture are reader-written publications. So these are publications where the content is like readers writing in, a lot of it. A couple good examples are RFD, which was a journal for gay men in rural areas, first published in Grinnell, Iowa in 1974. It's still going. And Lesbian Connection. You can see in the Lesbian Connection cover that it's just like really hand-drawn. A lot of like queer independent publishing, especially magazines, is a product of like cheap and accessible duplication technology like mimeographs and photocopiers. They enabled people to make DIY publications and circulate them in a DIY way.
So moving on from some of our inspiration, we want to share some of the zines that we make, drawn from that inspiration. So one of our main publication series is called Queer Materials, that actually reproduces archival material from throughout the Midwest that is explicitly queer and trans, and is highly curated from across. If you've ever done archival research, it's not one simple folder right on the screen. So these are highly curated zines that reproduce material to try to tell enough of a story to piece together some of our history, and also provide a historical note on the back to provide more context and citations, of course.
In the tradition of the Iowa City Women's Press, we publish some DIY/how-to manuals. These kind of have a sustainability focus. A couple good examples are Gentle Laundry and Crotch Repair, about fixing your pants, written by me, a gay. Another aspect of our publishing scope is arts organizing. So on the right, you see a directory we published with listings by 50 Twin Cities writers and artists who have a service-based arm of their business. And we always get asked when we're going to do the next one of these. We are thinking June, so keep an eye out for that. On the left, you see and application fees, a zine about why artists shouldn't have to pay to compete with each other and what we can do about it. The title says it all. Additionally, gallery assistants at the Walker have been dealing with a new policy from management that stools are no longer allowed. And this is a really big accessibility concern for workers here. And so I would be remiss to not pause with this arts organizing slide and talk about that. The best way that you can help the organizing that Walker employees are doing is to submit a comment card saying that you think gallery assistants should be able to have their stools back. We have some comment cards down here. You can grab one from us or at the front desk.
Thanks, Cynthia. Back to some of our publishing scope. We wanted to show zines that are directly inspired from historical erotica. The one on your right is a puzzle book that shares erotic dots, crosswords, and other fun games from Drummer magazine. And they're I think their first 8 issues, and then they stopped doing puzzles in the 1970s, and combines a history of Drummer and collage with those actual archival artifacts. We also have published the work Leather Trans. You're going to hear a lot about Gabe McHenry in a minute, so big shout out to Gabe.
We love you, Gabe.
We love Gabe. But really great to see publications that are more per zines, grounded in the historical in terms of the leather trans community, both coming into it and looking to trans ancestors who've been a part of that.
We're interested in informal research-based writing, and leather trans is a really good example.
Also, we do, as you've already kind of heard, we cultivate a community publishing space through our event called Open Copy. We let folks drop in to print flyers, print zines, come just fold stuff, hang out, build community. There's a photo of our space and the photocopier and, of course, unworking collator right there inside. And we're always kind of changing the equipment and trying to make it more functional to fit what other folks need and what they look for in our space.
If you've ever wondered what it's like to carry tons of equipment up to a second floor apartment and how the logistics of that work, you can read our zine, Own the Means of Production, and share it.
Excellent. We encourage you to also come and check out an Open Copy, and we didn't put it on the slide, but I want to call out that we also do copies for a cause, where we'll print for free flyers in black and white for community activists and different causes. So reach out to us if you need some printing.
We wanted to shout out a local, amazing reader-written publication that we print on our equipment called Better Homes and Dykes. We recommend that you follow them at Better Homes and Dykes. And one of the things that we like to do as late night copies is to be able to offer at cost or subsidized printing to the kind of independent queer print media we want to see in the world.
We've already highlighted that we run the Midwest Queer Trans Zine Fest. We want to give you the dates, write them down really quickly. Quick announcement, October 19th and 20th. This year we'll be hosting the second fest. A huge shout out again to Gabe McHenry, one of our co-organizers who couldn't be here tonight and has really made this fest happen and be an incredible community space. Last year we saw over 1,000 attendees, 70 zine sturges from around the region were tabling, and it was just a really incredible show of community support for queer and trans publishing strongly here based in the Midwest.
Finally, one of the things we've been doing lately is curating what we call pop-up reading rooms. So like a collection of zines about a specific topic, oftentimes gay zines. And we can sort of bring this to any kind of event or setting. Please get in touch with us if you're interested in some kind of collaboration along these lines. We're really interested in just informal ways for people to handle and touch and read zines. Yeah.
If any of this sounds fun, feel free to follow us on Instagram. Check out our website. We regularly post our open copy dates, and when the formal application gets announced for the Midwest Queer Trans Zine Fest in June, you'll be able to find it at both of those handles. Thanks.
Hi, folks. Again, I'm also known as Cynthia Nicole. That's my pen name. Glasses fogging. So I wrote my first zine in 2008. I published in 2009, and 5 years after, it was 5 years after a brain injury that I had, and so I subtitled my first zine 5-year itch bitch venture. It's kind of after like one of my favorite songs by Roseanne Cash, like 7-year ache, like kind of heartache. Well, that was my itch bitch venture. So my brain injury, just a little bit about it. I had a ulterior venous malformation, kind of like an aneurysm, 3 brain surgeries within a month, just a bunch of I'm not the same person type thing, like at all. Like the two people that I really, really cared about, an ex-partner and a former best friend, one of them had gotten married and had a kid, and the other one just didn't want anything to do with me anymore. Kind of like, oh, I love you like it was yesterday, and they didn't reciprocate whatsoever. So I didn't want to move on with making new friends. And so Zine Fests were definitely there. Let's see. Yep, I was willing to read to other people over the phone and also offer them a zine in larger print if needed. I first came across zines. They sometimes had a recipe in them, and I like that feature. So here is a recipe for chickenless gravy. And then we also have, and I wasn't satisfied with issue 2 that I did. So I did an issue 2.5. And it's just staying there. Yeah. But I do switch covers a lot because I like something new all the time. This writing was done in effort to let go and shelve some of these feelings. They are no longer ones I wish to carry around with me. I also had been willing to, like I said, read over the phone. And then, so I decided to read my zine and then have it taped by somebody, and it's on Bandcamp. You can hear me reading issue 2.5. And the third zine I did was subtitled "Sugar Imbalance and an Addictive Personality," which had a recipe for tofu carrot cacciatore. In number 4, I also share about how upset I get if there isn't any place for me to sit down if I have to wait. Yeah. Like, why am I waiting for, this was back in the day, but why am I waiting for pain meds in line for like 7 minutes and I don't have a place to sit, Like, why? I don't know why. I didn't make, they obviously weren't me when they made the system. That's all. And then this is a friend of mine. Oh, so this shiny paper was found at a garage sale. Luckily, it, printed well. And my friend Erin Palwada drew me riding my adult tricycle on the back. So there you will see that nice cartoon that he did. And there's another version of the front of the cover. And here I'm sharing a picture of my friend Mike on his BMX. And the writing pasted over this says, I was in band from 6th to 9th grade. One year for a concert, we played the song Kokomo from the movie Cocktail. I'd forgotten this. I am riding in the car with my parents, listening to the Beach Boys and the song Kokomo, and my dad yells out to me, and, I was listening to other music, and he's so proud of me, and it's just different. Like, that happened a long time ago, Dad. Issue 6, well, so this is issue 7, but issue 6 does have a few pictures from Dover Publishing, which I have the right to publish as long as I, give proper, what's it called, appropriation to them for having that. So I didn't, put a picture of issue number 6 on here. I have permission to do up to like 7 pictures as long as I give them props for that. And it's from the book, they're black and white photos from the book Women at Work, when women went back to work in World War II, or went to work in general. So this is, issue number 7 is subtitled "Are You Deities?" And it's 3 personal stories about intrauterine birth control devices. And yeah, number 8 is okay. So this picture right here is a picture of it was art on a fence that I used to walk by quite often, and it was it says kill the snake, referring to pipelines. And I just like, art in my community that's like, oh, you wouldn't think that would be on a fence, but that looks really cool. And a fatigue scale. I found this, and that website Mistreated needs crediting. But the fatigue scale, like they have a pain scale at the doctor usually sometimes, but why not a fatigue scale? Because when I have chronic pain, but that also makes me like fatigued, sometimes, and it's just, nobody gets it, whatever. And so I went to Expo Zine in Montreal, and I had a wonderful time. There were like 218 exhibitors there, and it was just like some people were just only speaking French, and I had one of the best times exhibiting there. I also was one of the panelists at CanZine one time in Winnipeg, and it says on the bottom of my bio there that Cynthia can function like mad when fueled by dark chocolate and black tea. And I do trades. I do trades whenever I usually have zines on me. That's one great thing about being in community. I get to, and this is also a low cost format. So, I get to be, it's accessible for me. I was on Social Security, like, this is super, I can do this, And so trades, you don't know what you're getting, first of all. One of the first zines I got was Human Burrito, and I really thought that it was something until I opened it up, and there were people just rolled up in carpets, propped up by trees, and like maybe smoking a cigarette, and there was no text. And I that's not what I was anticipating, And so, see here. These next ones, I've contributed to a zine about being a former punk rocker and having mental illness and addiction issues in the punk rock scene. And so there's 2 issues of this book. Also, Our Bodies and Our Bikes. Sometimes I ride an adult tricycle. I don't know, I have a story in there. And then this one, Surviving Your Adventurous Lifestyle. But then I was like, this is a talk about zines. So I've been in a few zines. Luckily I've been asked to be in a few zines, or I've just submitted to a few zines. See here, one of them is called, Unsent Letters to Ex-Lovers. Another one is I've done 3 submissions to the zine Collide, a zine on mental and physical illness, and also the Avocado, and then one, Personally Yours. And they're great. If I can just say that like over and over again for hours, there are no other words. But thank you for your time. Yeah.
Hey everybody, I am humbled to be able to speak with all of my friends tonight. My name is Lo. I use they, them pronouns, and I self-publish under the name YOLO Zines. I specialize in collaborative zine projects where multiple artists submit their work around a central theme, creating a community art piece. Today, I would like to talk about my personal history with zines, some thoughts I have on collaboration, and a few projects and events that are examples of how zines can foster community. So, I feel like the easiest thing for zinesters to talk about is the thing we're passionate about. And so I just wanted to tell you why I love zines so much. Shout out to my mom for going through the archives to help me find some material for this slide. So ever since I could remember, this is me in kindergarten, I was using my Red Royal manual typewriter to type out my little stories, and I was obsessed with making books. Lots of my school assignments were my proto-zines. In high school, I rediscovered zines in the form of a hot pink zine on my favorite punk band at the time, the X-Ray Specs. And I got it for free at the record store from like some box I had to dig through. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that people could make zines about whatever we wanted. And zines were a great way for me to learn and express my budding thoughts on like feminism, anti-capitalism, and music. And, you know, I fast forward to my 30s where I had like a job, but I had no creative outlet or any connection to artistic communities. And I found that was like a huge hole in my life. And so I found zines again, and I haven't looked back. So I specialize in collaborative zines for a lot of reasons, but a big one is that I can't do everything myself. Writing and drawing and putting a zine together are all different skills. And luckily, I belong to a really talented community, and I can lean on our collective talents. I don't have to do everything myself. And in addition to pooling our talents, it's also important for DIY or do-it-yourself self-publishers to pool our resources, because we don't all own copy machines or computers. I personally rely on the library heavily, as well as late-night copies, to create my zines. And for me, just to say something about DIY, DIY means resisting systems of oppression and just mindless consumer capitalism. And it also means owning my labor and being intentional about the means of production and distribution of the things that I'm creating, which are explicitly anarchist and communist values. And I do believe that this is all possible when we combine our powers. So here are some examples of collaborative zines that I've made. Often people submit art and they're total strangers to me. I do open calls on the internet sometimes. And over the course of the project, we tend to become closer acquainted, and sometimes we even become friends in real life. Did You Eat was created as a response to media reporting a rash of colonizers appropriating food culture. It was in the news as white guys making videos about the best ways to make kimchi, and about white women opening restaurants with recipes stolen from Mexican women. And honestly, I was really tired of the defensive conversations that we had to have about this topic. So we set out to make a zine about celebrating food culture and talking about what it means to us. And 20 artists of color collaborated on this project, including my mom. I'm quite proud of this one. For Dearly Beloved, I asked people how they would like to be remembered after they die. Real or imagined, I feel like the memorials and the rituals that people presented were really from the heart. And I think that this project kind of creates a gift that you can give to people that you love. There is no ambiguity in what you want when you talk about how you'd like to be remembered after you die. And 25 artists, including my mom, my dad, and my sister, contributed collage, illustrations, poetry, photography, and essays around this topic. And working on this zine, I laughed, I cried, and I deeply considered my own wishes. Putting this together during an ongoing Palestinian genocide was actually really heavy. And I think that it was a really intimate project that really brought us together as a group as we created it. And to say more about community, I find community is kind of a nebulous term, but I define it as being able to ask someone to feed your cat or give you a ride to Milwaukee. There isn't a prescribed set of steps to follow to build this authentic community. It's more like what you feed in will eventually blossom in some unknown way in the future. And making art and being vulnerable by sharing it just creates a sense of trust and safety. So sharing, collaborating, collecting, trading, and supporting other artists all feed into this community, this sense of community that we have. There's a joke that the same $20 has been circulating back and forth between zine artists because we're so committed to supporting each other's art. And it's not done in a transactional way. It's for the love of the game. So here are some examples of zine events where I get to meet and mingle with my zine community. Zine Scene is a quarterly zine reading series organized by the Twin Cities Zine Fest in cooperation with the library. Volunteer readers get up in front of an intimate, supportive gathering and read their zines. And there is such a variety of work presented, and it's really fun. The last reader is our featured artist who leads a workshop after the readings. These events are free to attend and draw like 20 to 30 people. And often people in the audience will return to the next scene to be a reader. And the next one is in May, and Baki will be our featured reader. So one time India told me that it's possible that no one loves going to Zine Fest more than Lo. And it's like maybe true. Connecting with other self-publishing nerds is like the highlight of my life. I get so much energy from it. There's so many queer, trans, neurodiverse creators to swap zines and stories with. And it's just like the one time where I really get to like nerd out. And I would encourage everyone here to come out to a zine fest. If you make zines, bring them to trade or bring cash and like prepare to be amazed at the kind of things that people are sharing with the world. So as I wrap up, I just want to leave you with the encouragement that you can make zines. I hope you give it a try. Thank you so much for having me. Please talk to me about zines.
Thank you all so much for the amazing presentations and just kind of breadth of work and thoughts and creativity and community. In just a sec, we'll be opening it up to questions from the audience. If you could just do us a favor and wait until a mic is brought to you to answer the question so we can make sure everyone hears and all that good stuff. And before we do that, though, I just kind of want to ask one question, which is, and it was kind of sort of echoing out a question also from this group too, but just kind of talking about with Twin Cities Zine Fest, opening it up to community submissions and like what that kind of process was like, how it started, and then how you handle all the folks that submit. I've heard, Lo, that you're a good person to answer it, but it's kind of open to the group.
So I'm an organizer with Twin Cities Zine Fest, and we have pivoted, like Cindy said, to a zine reading series to have smaller, like more decentralized events, so we can enjoy zines in a different way. And my personal zine practice as YOLO zines, I love collaborative zines because you never know what you're gonna get, and I find that to be very exciting. Like I might have an idea in my head of a theme I put out or a question that I pose, and I think that I will have some idea of how people will interpret that, but I'm always like surprised and delighted by what people submit. And I would just say that I have a lot of strong administrative skills, and I feel like there's a lot of boring background work that must be done, like, you know, tracking emails and making sure there are deadlines and, you know, those kinds of things to make a project happen. But the fun part for me is like engaging with artists.
Very cool. Any questions yet from folks? Oh, sorry, I see one.
Hi. I just want to congratulate everybody up there for bringing the spirit of zines to the Walker. Yeah. I also wanted to thank you for using your platform to highlight the abuses of power here at the Walker. And just if anybody wanted to make any more comments, it'd be awesome if people after the show could like leave cards talking about how completely unethical it is to ask gallery assistants to stand for the entirety of their shifts here. And also a bit how silly it is to charge $24 for a ticket to this event. That's all.
Before, is this on? Okay, before people have questions, I just wanted to say a way that I'm different too is that like at my events, you are making zines. So if folks are inspired to make zines and are like, man, I want to go to Zine Fest, but I don't have anything to trade, please follow me at A Lover's War. We trade, it's all me doing it behind the scenes. But I just pick a venue, I bully them until they give it to me for free or low cost. And then I just hustle art materials. Everybody in my life knows that I love teaching art, and I really want to be known as not just like a publisher. I want to be known as a publisher. I want to publish the next Ida B. Wells, okay? So come to my events, make zines. I provide the materials, provide the food. Making zines, I know in this space it can kind of seem intimidating. We're doing this weird thing where we're talking about something niche and radical in an institution, and how do you do that? How do we foster and fill in those gaps? Folks like myself who are obsessed with it. I carry scissors with me sometimes. You need scissors, you need glue, come talk to me.
I just want to give a shout out to my parents, Ann and Ralph Mayer, representing Stearns County, Paynesville. And they do not have any interest in zines, but they came to support me. So I just want to give them a shout out.
We have a question down here. I'm sure the mics are at.
Again, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate your lectures. They were wonderful. My first introduction to zines was a free zine library that I had found. And so I was just wondering, I know that Bone Shakers exists, which is an awesome resource for the community, not only as a store, but they also offer a free zine library. And then there's also the MCAD Zine Shanty. And then I know Cadence Coffee in St. Paul offered at one point a free zine library as well. So I was just wondering if you knew any more opportunities for zine libraries in the Twin Cities.
Have you checked out the zine library collection at the Hennepin County, the downtown branch, the Lake Street branch, and the Hosmer branch? You can see my zines for free there. Yes, it's a great collection. It's really fun.
Also, Minneapolis College has a really amazing collection of zines that's really large and comprehensive. Yeah.
I'll say we have a library we're happy to also share at Open Copy. If you're hey, I want to see some zines and not even come just to make stuff, but come look at the zines that we have, we're happy to share that resource as well. We have way too many. And then if you're interested in also just buying zines, because they are cheap, Bone Shaker is a great spot. Also want to highlight the shop at MCBA. They consign a lot of us, and a lot of great zinesters from around the country. Is becoming a really central hub for finding new zines and buying things.
And I shouldn't be saying this, Aiden should be saying this, but you could make an appointment at the Treader Collection in GLBT Studies to read a lot of gay zines. They have a few.
It was, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for your presentations. It was mentioned that some of the zines here were meant to sort of archive queer and trans history. Do you guys, when you do your archive work, is it mostly focused on bringing stuff into the past into zines, or are you collaborating in a more, on a deeper level way on archives concerning queer history in the Midwest?
That's definitely a me question. So there's as you might have just figured out, I have another hat. I'm the curator of the Cheddar Collection in GLBT Studies at the University of Minnesota Libraries. So I run an all queer trans archive that does have an incredible zine collection, and something I'm continually trying to build and grow in terms of actually acquiring zines and preserving that culture. And in that broad way, y'all are really close to one of the biggest queer archives in the country. It's on the West Bank of the university campus, which can suck in terms of institutionality, of course. But we're really trying hard to be out in the community. We're one of the sponsors for the Midwest Queer Trans Zine Fest, and trying to bring materials outward. We had an exhibit, thanks to Open Book and MCBA, of DIY queer zine and print culture alongside the fest last year. We'll have another one this upcoming year. And so there's, beyond zines, a lot of queer and trans material in the archive that represents our region, that represents the state and our local communities, and that's something that we're definitely invested in embedding more in the archive and recognizing kind of where we sit as an institutional queer collection. And aside from that, kind of related between the Zine Fest and things, we're actually starting a zine workshop series with some of the folks here, where people will be invited to come for free to a workshop, and the artists will get paid to teach the workshop, and use materials from the Treader collection or find inspiration from the Treader collection to make zines and make group zines and collaborate together. So that's coming out starting in June, if you look for the announcements. Lastly, I'll just say in terms of like the queer materials zines, the hope is like doing zines like that and doing archival research and trying to find a thread to kind of hand to the community is an invitation to come, look at the archives broadly, like can't help but be an archivist and make something like that and give people a folder to take home, and you can spill on it, you can rip it, you can hand it to someone, something you can't do in the archives more formally when you're doing research. And so that's meant to draw our history outward and give it to people and invite people in to hopefully come and do research and pull across the Midwest. Only one issue so far is from the Treader collection. So
The first 3 issues of that queer material series were created when Late Night Copies Press was based in Iowa City, and we took them to every Pride in Iowa one summer.
I think there was another question. Yeah, right there.
Hi, I don't want to talk to. There we go. Okay. As someone who like kind of struggles with transportation and just getting out of the house in general, because there's a whole reasons for that. But is there like good online resources, or like, you know, now that Lyft and Uber is being taken out of Minneapolis, and it's just I have like no way of going anywhere further than Hennepin County Library. So, any suggestions for that?
The Queer Zine Archive Project, QZAP, based in Milwaukee, has really amazing things. Zach Frazier down in Kansas City, Missouri, is doing some amazing things with building a Black queer zine archive in the Midwest. And I think some of that's going to be going online.
Oh, there is also the SAD Zine Fair. It's for I'm not sure the whole title, but there's for disabled folks, and so it's all online, and you get to meet plenty of other artists. It's based in Las Vegas, but it's all online. And when I was coming into zines, there was a We Make Zines platform, and I became pen pals with someone in 2008, and we met in 2013, and we're still friends. And so hopefully there's something out there. I'm not sure what it would be, but best of luck.
I'll also plug my own service. I really like to help people make zines. So if you want a consultation or something like that, I do them virtually. And then also Cyclista Zine, based out of California, has an online archive. You can message me on Instagram if you want. I have a little collection of free zine spots.
I just want to acknowledge that you asked a really fundamental question and a need, and we did not have great resources for you. I mean, we did. That's great resources as far as online to look at zines, but as far as building a connection on an online community, we are, as you can see, us as organizers are still struggling on how to do that. So I just want to thank you for your bravery for naming a need in front of so many people, and then also just want to acknowledge that I'm sorry that the answers we gave you is what our knowledge, and it's very limited. And then also I want to express gratitude and thank you for showing an area where we have to grow as a community.
I think that it would be a great idea to start something like this. Maybe we could have a ride share that people could sign up for on Zine Fest websites for the Insert Name Zine Fest, because I think that transportation accessibility, getting to the Zine Fest, if you can't get to the Zine Fest, how can you meet people? Once you get to the Zine Fest, you know, like, can you move around? Is there enough bathrooms? Stuff like that. My Zine Fest insert name Zine Fest. If you want to like DM us, we can always like boost things if you have a need. We do that for mutual aid, and I think a lot of other people on this stage do that as well. It's a real good idea to bring this up, and I thank Baki for bringing up that we could have more things in that area and communication.
So my first exposure to zines was about an hour ago, and they seem very cool, and I'm definitely feeling all the inspiration that was provided in large dose, which is very nice. I'm also kind of from the middle of nowhere, not here, and I was wondering where, in very small communities, where people who like zines would kind of gather, or in the case that that community doesn't really exist where I live. You guys are obviously artists and writers and such, but also community builders. And I was wondering how you would go about doing that.
I can jump in and just say, like, we've all shouted out libraries a lot. And so I'd like check your local public library. And if there's not zine programming, like one way to start would to be holding like a zine club or some kind of workshop. Like, you don't have to have made a zine to be like, hey, come make zines. Let's hang out. Let's have some paper and supplies and maybe find some examples and share that way. So that's one way to start things. And I think, like many of us here, we've started fests because we didn't see the fest we wanted, right? Like, I think that's very much why we started the Midwest Queer and Trans Zine Fest. We wanted to have a hyper-regional focus, bring people together, and you know, for the first year, it turned out better than our expectations, like quite amazing. And so many people were hungry for the same thing too. And so I think, like, what would it look like to try to start a zine fest in your community? Like a little day, an afternoon, beyond a workshop. Just find a space, maybe your library, and do it.
I think also with the library, having a program, you know, or just a club, if you have it on a consistent basis, I think that people would pick that up, you know, and come in eventually. And then also, I know, what is it, like Eventbrite or something like that, it has, you know, some zine things that you can do online, you know, like, hey, let's do this with the zine, you know, and some of them are, you know, like $5, or some of them are free, you know, and then there's also a bunch of zine talks and a few other zine demonstrations also available online.
If I was to get my start again of like creating space, I would want to tell myself to not do it alone, because I'm still primarily doing it alone, and then bugging people in my family. Like, my parents have helped out willingly and unwillingly with every monthly zine I do. I also don't drive, so like a lot of people in this room have given me rides to everything and anything. Shout out to mommy and daddy again. Actually, can we clap for them just because I think that'd be funny? Okay, so first off, I wouldn't do it. Thank y'all. That was sweet. Ooh, I feel powerful. If I had to do it again, I would say that, like, sometimes when I host monthly ones now, and sometimes I get over 40 people, and then sometimes it's 3 people who love me, who come. So, like, I wouldn't worry about numbers. And if libraries aren't your jam, I would start off with learning how to make a one-pager zine. That's all I teach at my zines, is how to fold a one-pager, because I think there's power in creating a short story that then you can, like, photocopy. And it's easier to make if you have a little book with a message, and when you unfold it, it's only one piece of paper. Like, if you can go to your friend's house, or like anybody, like asking them like, hey, can I just get 5 copies of something? They're gonna be like, okay, yeah, sure, 5 copies, 5 papers. Not realizing that's 5 books, that's 5 lives you could change. So I would say the power of the one pager is how I would start getting organized, like by making my own, or like even just collaging and throwing stuff on there. Like one of my first zines that were really popular, I made a one pager where it's just cute collages, and then I just cut up different sentences from a magazine and made my own poem, slapped on my like Instagram on the back, called it a day, and then just gave those out and like hustled libraries, hustle people, you know, or whatever term you would like to use, and just be like, I just need a page, I just need 2, I just need 3, and to be consistent. And I think that it takes a lot of social exchange. To like now, like the Resources Minneapolis is a collective that rents out their space. Like one of my friends' partners knows the person who runs it, so I just emailed them and was like, "You're giving me this space for free," and they were like, "Yeah, of course." How I would do that, like without having like done that before, so people just know me about it, I think is be brave, go into spaces and say, I desperately want community. Do you want community too? Would you like offer up creative solutions for people? Because oftentimes when we want to do something, we're gonna hear no first. So we have to do the emotional labor for folks, and like sometimes people don't know how to be inspired until they see it. So like keeping your own inspiration and knowing that you're incredible for having this desire, 1. 2, going to people and being like, hey, I noticed you have this back room in your coffee shop that you don't use a lot. Could I potentially use it once a month? Maybe just one time. Let's just try one event. Let's just make it 2 hours. It's gonna be 3 in your head, but just say 2 hours, you know, and stuff like that. I think get creative, don't be discouraged, and always remember for any events you do, people want something personal. So having a specific zine that you make that day, asking folks, like having a speaker, having something for people to leave with, or just a simple Facebook and like invitation. I can't tell you how many times my friends will call me now and be like, I was gonna come to your zine event, but you didn't tell me about it. I see you every day, sweetheart. People, that personal touch that we all desire is that personal touch that we all desire. So the more we give it, the more we can receive it back. But don't let it all rest on your shoulders. If you have this desire, know that there are other people who have this desire too.
I just want to say that everyone up here are like really strong organizers, and I know that when I was starting to organize community events, it was really intimidating, but something that I remind myself all the time is like, if you can organize a potluck, if you can like get 4 friends to come to your house and like show up in on time, you're an organizer. If you can like get your laundry to the laundromat and like come back and like none of your socks are missing, you have the skills that it takes to get your friends to come over, to tell them to bring whatever art supplies they have kicking around. You know, you just have some paper and you just like put on a movie, put on some music, and then you just like make scenes together. Like that's how it starts. And I just want to like empower you to like recognize that you have a lot of organizing skill, even if you don't think that it's like formal.
I would also add that even if you're bad at it, it'll still be a good time. I am not an organized person, yet I am an organizer. And yeah, like you find like people whose superpower is accounting, and then you're like, my God, please help me, give me some tips. And you'll get like, you know, like it'll work out. Just like make your half-assed airplane and, you know, don't put it in the air, but like drive it, you know. And you'll find people along the way. You'll find wonderful hitchhikers, and you'll all start a family band, and it'll be great.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more
Is
question.
this on? Is this on? Okay. I was just gonna say, like, having talking about starting something in a small community. You can go to school, talk to the art teacher. Maybe there's a lot of students at that school that are interested. Go to a coffee shop. See if you can, like she said, use the back room. And then I have a comment for Emily. It's like you said, we don't like zines, okay? But you gave me that zine for Christmas about laundry.
India made that zine.
I know, about laundry. And now I have the best smelling clothes and the whitest whites.
Yeah!
If I could say one more thing,
yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry. Sometimes it's also just about like having the audacity to practice like asking for things, like, or like a lot of the times people just give me magazines now, but I had to practice asking people for their extra magazines. And sometimes I hear no, and that can be really hard. And in small communities especially, sometimes it'll be an echo chamber and you'll just hear no, 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 no. And I'm not trying to be like Lady Gaga, like in a room full of 100 people, all you need is one yes. But she ate when she said that. That is very much true. And like in the small town especially, like very quickly when you become an organizer for zines, like your love for zines or even inquiry about it, because people don't know about it, you're gonna become the zine person very quickly. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time right now, but I hope you can all join us for the reception and the zine pinata. And I want to thank all these wonderful folks from Twin Cities Zine Fest.